Wolfenstein: The New Order ultimately ended up surprising me. I thought this game would be nothing but a brainless shooter. And not that there's anything wrong with a brainless shooter, because I believe as long as a game knows its identity, knows what it wants to be, and targets that, then it's fine. But there's actually more to this game than mindless, pointless shooting. There is actually a relevant story behind it all. The story turns out to be very well written. There's a good script and dialogue between all the characters. There's not so much of the stupid one-liners that I expected the game to be riddled with. The characters are actually charismatic and compelling and real. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss out on anything that was being said, whether it was just in game or during the cutscene. I wanted to hear everything that was being said. There's a level of character development in this game. As the game went along, I learned and knew and cared about what happened to each character. It didn't feel like what many other games did by putting other characters in the game just for the sake of it, just to say that there are other characters in the game. They actually had a point to being there. The voice acting was pretty good. The plot had substance. The last thing I expected to do was use the word intelligent when it came to this game's story. Not saying it's the most original or smartest or well-developed or in-depth story you've ever heard of, but it's not as paper thin or brain dead as you would expect it to be. And the game's pretty lengthy. It's not something you're gonna finish in 3-4 hours and then put down and never play again. So that was obviously a good thing. And also, it didn't feel like it dragged on too long unnecessarily. It felt like the exact length it should have been. And there are 2 timelines in this game based on a decision you make, which obviously adds some replayability to the game and gives you a reason to play through it a second time. But what kind of disappointed me was there was no New Game Plus option so that you can go through the game again, but possibly keep the perks you unlocked throughout the first playthrough, which I will get into perks a little bit later. So I just really felt like there should have been a New Game Plus if you wanted to do that. But unfortunately, if you want to do a second playthrough, you have to start over completely with nothing you unlocked. It's not completely terrible that it's missing that feature, but I think it's something that should have been there. I just never really expected that the best trait this game has, in my opinion, is the story. It's not the gameplay with the over-the-top, crazy, exaggerated shooting, which is fun for the most part. I definitely enjoyed that, but it wasn't the game's strongest suit. Now, moving on to the gameplay, this game is obviously meant to be an absolutely outrageous, extremely over-the-top Nazi shoot-'em-up. But it also gives you the option to select your style of play. When engaging the enemies, you can choose the route to be loud and confrontational and combative, or you can choose to be stealthy, and I like that. I like that in this game, when you enter a room, for the most part, each section is designed so that you can choose how you want to handle that specific part. It's not as if, like it is with many other games, where you enter a certain arena, automatically every enemy within a 1,000-foot radius knows your exact pinpoint position. It's not like that, and I'm glad they didn't do that in this game. In most cases, they gave you the option to choose how you want to handle it. As far as the AI goes, you're not going to see anything groundbreaking here. They can range from pretty smart to extremely stupid at any given moment, and that's regardless of difficulty. Besides that, there's plenty of weapons you can choose from. Also, you can dual wield weapons, which obviously make you feel like a badass. Of course, the trade-off of more firepower equals less accuracy. One thing that really bothered me about this game is everything requires a manual pickup. Nothing in this game is automatically picked up. Now, that might not seem like a big deal when I'm just speaking about it, but until you play the game, you're not gonna know what I'm talking about. I played this game on PC, and when I say you have to pick up everything, I mean everything. This game does not do anything for you automatically. That means you have to manually pick up armor. There could be literally one bullet lying on the ground. You have to pick up that bullet manually. Armor, health, guns, bullets, everything. Now, like I said, it may not seem like a big deal until you play it, and you have to constantly keep tapping the same button constantly all the damn time. My E button was my pickup button while playing on PC. I probably easily pressed the E button through my first playthrough over 1,000 times, easily. And I'm not saying that I want the game to do everything for me, But usually in most games, there's at least an automatic pickup for some items. And even if when there's not, they don't require you to constantly pick up. And it kind of just interrupts the flow of the game and the flow of shooting enemies and countless Nazis when you have to stop and just move back, move left, trying to pick up an item on the floor all the time. So it just interrupts the pacing of the game. The perks in the game, as I mentioned earlier, you unlock perks by completing certain tasks, which gives you certain passive abilities. As far as being a shooter, it is a decent shooter, but it's not amazing. You know, the game can get pretty dull and repetitive throughout certain parts of the game. Luckily, what they did to counteract that is put some challenging enemies in the game, different varieties, and pretty cool bosses. But it wasn't completely enough for me to make up for all the boring and repetitive scenes. Probably the worst thing about this game is the visuals and sound. This game looked like it could have came out a few years ago. The textures are pretty bland, even though there is a variety of locations and environments. They all kind of look pretty dull, and the sound effects of the guns just didn't seem authentic to me. They didn't seem to pack a punch. There was no robust sound effects, really. And they weren't accurate either. For example, when you fire the shotgun, you don't really hear the bass and the impact that you feel you should hear from shooting dual shot. There are a few parts that do stand out in those regards, but I wish overall the visuals and sound was much better. So I wouldn't say this is a game you need to absolutely rush out and buy. It's not exactly a must play, but if you have some time to kill and you want to play a crazy shoot 'em up, then definitely I recommend it at a lower price. So based on all the things mentioned, this is why I give Wolfenstein: The New Order a 7.5 out of 10. This is my review. Thank you for watching.